let's break the news right here. Evan, what can you tell
Yes.
us, sir?
Well, we do. We have breaking news on Shaneen Allen, and you're hearing it for the first time right here on this show. Our law office just received a fax letter from the prosecutor requesting an adjournment, meaning to continue the case, because the prosecutor wants to reevaluate his position regarding Shaneen Allen and see if there's a better resolution to the case. The judge just sent out a letter to us agreeing and allowing the adjournment, because we were set to have a pre-trial conference Tuesday, and then we were set for trial for the 6th. So trial and the pre-conference has been adjourned and moved, and I'm cautiously optimistic. I think this is a great sign because if any case needs to be reevaluated, it's Shaneen Allen. I mean, it's just, the folks out there that have, I think, made a difference in bringing it to light and keeping that light on the folks down in Atlantic County, and I think it's paying off.
Absolutely. Now, Evan, let me make sure that I understand correctly here. You say the DA, this is Jim McClain, asking for a delay in this case because he wants to reconsider. So no decision has been made here, but clearly the public attention, I mean, what else could it be other than the public attention that has been paid to Shaneen Allen's case that has this prosecutor say, well, I want to look and see if there's anything else we can do here?
Well, I think let's just say there's a lot going on in Atlantic County. There's a lot of issues out there, and Shaneen Allen is a super important issue for what we care so much about, which is our Second Amendment rights, and we have such incredible sympathy for her, and it's just an outrage. But there's other issues down there as well. Not the least of which is the Ray Rice case and all. So, it's about time that this position, this hardball position on firearms get a reevaluation, because, look, none of us are in favor of the bad guys having guns, and we're all for, appropriate punishment for bad guys. But when honest, law-abiding folks like Shaneen make an honest mistake, you don't threaten them and make your best offer of 5 years in state's prison with 3.5 years minimum mandatory jail time. It's just outrageous. So hopefully he'll be inclined to use his discretion with Shaneen and other cases that are down there as well, and that the focus can stay on the people that are a threat of violence to us, that are wrongdoers, and not folks like Shaneen.
Talking with Evan Nappen, Shaneen's attorney. Jenny, do you have any questions for Evan?
No, I don't. But one thing I would like to say is you really have to look at the pressure that has mounted on this prosecutor, no doubt. And I have to tell you, I've been doing videos on this, and it's not just gun owners who are outraged. I have gotten emails from people who make clear they don't own a gun, they're not an NRA member, and they make it clear, I'm not an NRA member yet, but they have seen our videos, they've seen the headlines, and they're asking, is that what our justice system has become? That we treat gun owners different. And it's obvious when you look at Shaneen's case, and Evan mentioned Ray Rice's case. He can knock his wife out cold. He doesn't face any charges. Shaneen, she truthfully does exactly what she was told to do in her concealed carry class, that when you get pulled over by an officer, you tell them you have a firearm. She had a firearm. She told them she had 3 safeties on her gun. She owned it legally, and she's facing up to 10 years in prison. It's an injustice. It's an abuse of the power of his office, as far as I can say. And even Assemblyman Dancer told me, and he's leading the charge on his legislation, which is Shaneen's law. And he called Shaneen's case a miscarriage of justice, and he admitted that what happened to her is an unintended consequence. That's what he called it, an unintended consequence of the gun bills the gun laws that they've passed. And he said, Ginny, you know what? This is an eye-opener to lawmakers on both sides of the aisle. not only in New Jersey, but you got to know what's going on in New York, all around the country. And the difference is, and you really have to hand it to Shaneen, because I've had people call me and say, I've had similar things happen to me, but I didn't want to go public with it. That's the difference with Shaneen Allen. She wasn't afraid to take a risk, to go to court, even though she has 2 children, and she was concerned about the future. I've had people tell me she should be the poster child for the need for national reciprocity, because she really has, in many ways, taken it to a different level. And the other thing I have to say is we were allowed into the courtroom. I don't think a lot of people get to see what goes on in the courtroom. And when you hear the judge and the prosecutor's office, say, well, she sure should have been put into probation, but there's a stronger need to prosecute her, so she serves as a deterrent. A deterrent to who? It's amazing. And it's encouraging news, nothing definitive, but you can sure keep your fingers crossed that it's just the start of a change.
Absolutely. All right, Ginny, I think we've lost Evan. So one more final question for you. And I don't know if you've had an opportunity to see the letter that was sent that
Yes,
Evan had talked about, but I'm curious about the language that the prosecutor used. He said he was seeking this delay. Evan used the word to reevaluate
right,
this
and he
case.
writes
Was that the language that was used?
Yes, to read the letter here, he says, I am presently in the process of reviewing our office's position on the appropriate resolution of this matter. I therefore would request that the court adjourn any motions and the trial for a period of 3 weeks to allow me to complete this review. And Cam, again, it's nothing definitive, but it's very interesting that this prosecutor goes before, the media telling them, we didn't treat Ray Rice different than any other first-time offender. Oh, really? Well, Shaneen Allen is a first-time offender. And he said, they didn't want to go after the trial and bring it to court because of his wife. But what about Shaneen's family? What about her future? Look at Brian Aiken. There's a prime example. He did have his sentence eventually commuted by Governor Christie. But he's still trying to turn his life around. He can't vote. He can't own a gun. He can't travel internationally. Like he said, I am not an American citizen in this country only because he didn't do anything wrong.
That's right, and I know that that's one of the things we've talked about with Evan before, that the hope that a jury would do the same for Shaneen Allen. Maybe I'm going to use my knock on wood block here.
Absolutely.
Maybe jurors won't have the opportunity. Maybe these charges will be dropped. So again, a 3-week delay. Now the trial was supposed to start October the 6th. So that would push that back into late October. And again, we don't know when or if the DA would announce any change in charges or dropping the charges entirely. But we've got I guess the prosecutor has a few weeks now to review the position of the office.
Yes, and it's a strong indication. Again, nothing definitive, but it certainly is a strong indication that maybe he's waking up to what he's done. Because it really is an injustice. And when you see what Shaneen's family is going through on a day-to-day basis, such uncertainty, where am I going to be in a month? What's going to happen to my kids? What's my future going to be like? Am I ever going to get a job? I mean, she had 2 jobs. She's a medical professional. She lost one of her jobs already. Even though there's no decision in her case, she lost her job. So you can only hope that the voice of reason and justice will be heard if this does go to a jury. And I think so many of those jurors, again, whether they own a gun or not, they have to look at it and say, my gosh, that could have been me. Walk in my shoes. That's what the victims say, walk in my shoes. It really is an encouraging move, but not a definitive move. And I can only imagine the hope that Shaneen Allen has now, because, as I said, she had the courage to go forward, even though she could have said, okay, I'll take a plea and leave it at that. But she wasn't going to take any plea because she didn't do anything wrong.
Exactly. Jenny, listen, thank you so much for coming on the program this afternoon. I want to thank Evan Nappen as well, and really appreciate your incredible coverage of Shaneen's story, and I look forward to seeing more of it, Jenny.
Well, yep, and Evan called me first. He said, Ginny, I'm giving you a heads up because I know what we've done on this project, on this ordeal, and it's got to make you feel good that gun owners and Americans overall are saying enough is enough. And I hope it's being heard by this prosecutor in more than just, I'm thinking about it, but he makes a decision not to move forward. Let's keep our fingers crossed.